Well, good morning, Lawrenceville First. My name's Adam Hildebrand. I get to be one of the pastors here at this amazing church, and it is such a joy to be in worship with you. Whether you're joining us here in person or you're joining us online, we're just excited about today. We're excited about what God has been doing and what God is going to do in this place that we call Lawrenceville First. Last April, I had the opportunity to go on the mission trip with our young people. So I went with a bunch of teenagers. We went to Kentucky, did some great work, had some good times, ate some mediocre meals. When you go on mission trip, it's all like the same thing. So over and over and over, you eat the same stuff. But we played lots of games. We did some great work, really muddy work. But on the last day, we had the chance to have a fun day, a fun adventure in the Red River Gorge area of Kentucky. Beautiful area of that state. And we were going to hike up to this place called Natural Bridge. And the listing for the hike referred to it as a moderately difficult hike. Moderately difficult in Kentucky must mean something completely different than like the way that I would define moderately difficult, because that was quite a hike. And because I was just along for the ride, like I wasn't the pastor, I was just Selah's dad on that trip, like I said, I'll pick up the six, I'll be the caboose, I'll be the back end, so I'm going to make sure that everybody gets up to the top of this climb, which is not necessarily the best place for me. I lack, what's that thing called? Patience. Patience is the word. And so I had to kind of recalibrate a number of times on this moderately difficult climb up to this place called Natural Bridge. But when we got up to the top, when we finally got there, and I wasn't totally sure that we were all going to make it at multiple points, but we finally got up to the top of this climb. This is what we saw, this beautiful natural bridge that had been carved out of stone over years and years and years. It's gorgeous. It was totally worth it. It was totally worth the climb. But what was even better about this bridge, what was even more unique, is when you got up on top of the bridge, you could get up on top of the bridge, this natural bridge, the view from up there was absolutely incredible. And I have this firm belief in life that the view is always worth the climb. The view is always worth the climb. Whatever you feel like you're climbing uphill with in your life, when you get to the top, the view is always worth the climb. So keep climbing. Keep working. Keep going after it. Keep moving forward. Keep taking the next step, because the view is worth the climb. Over the last number of years here at Lawrenceville First, we have been climbing. It's been lots of climbing. And again, if you're new here this morning, I'm just going to share a little bit about what we've been doing and what we're about here. But we've been climbing what feels like forever. And not that we've reached the top. I don't know that we have. But it's incredible to see what God has been doing in this place in and through you. What's been happening in the last few years is nothing short of incredible. The last few years, we've seen over 150 people join this congregational family. We've seen over 40 infants, children, teenagers, and adults baptized in this place. We've seen countless professions of faith. We've seen people take next steps toward Jesus. We've seen our nursery explode, like right below us right now. They just opened a new nursery classroom because we have so many little kids in our church right now, which is that's an incredible problem to have. I tell people that's the best indicator of health in our church right now. My first Sunday here 7 years ago, we had one kid in the nursery. And today there are 5 nursery classrooms open, which is like, you guys are just doing incredible work that's inviting people to come and to be a part of a vibrant congregation. And we're so excited about what God is doing. Which is why today we're launching this generosity campaign that our leadership believes will fuel our growth for the next 3 to 5 years of our work together here at Lawrenceville First and in the greater community. We'll continue to to do what God has called us to do. But we're going to take the long view. We're going to climb, and we're going to do the difficult things, and we're going to put in the work so that we can get up on top and see the beautiful things that God can and will do through this local church. So we're calling this the Build Your Church campaign. You may have seen it somewhere. Maybe you got something that looked like this in the mail, and if you didn't, we've got some envelopes that look, I've got so many props today, that look like this out in the Welcome Center. You can grab one of those, take it with you. It's got a lot of the information that you need, and so, when we're thinking about here's the church, here's the steeple, open the doors, there's a pledge card. And see all the people. So that's fun. Anyway, I thought it was much more creative than you guys do, clearly. So yeah, I thought it was funny. Now it's just pity, Steve. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. But we want you to have all the information about this, but I just want to talk about the what and the why of this. Because when we say build your church, you might think, okay, so Adam, what are we building? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. Because we're going to be partnering with Jesus to build the movement that he started over 2,000 years ago. And let me do it this way, by reading to you from Matthew chapter 16. And I'm going to read this whole passage, and then we're going to kind of break it down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what this invitation is for all of us, because all of us are invited to be a part of what God is doing in and through this place. And we want you to know your place in all of this. So hear these words from Matthew chapter 16. It says this: "Now, when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, 'Who do people say that the Son of Man is?'" Which is a great question. Who do people say that he is? And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, but others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." But then Jesus asked the deeper question, the more profound question, the better question, the one that all of us have to wrestle with at some point in our lives. He said to them, "Who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter piped up and he said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." So not too long after Jesus had walked on water and fed 4,000 people, he takes his disciples, his closest group of friends, and they go on a moderately difficult hike up to the base of Mount Hermon, to this place called Caesarea Philippi. Now, Caesarea Philippi in those days was just a unique place. Caesarea Philippi was developed as a temple for Caesar. And it was built on this place that had been used throughout the ages to worship all sorts of false deities, all the way back to Baal, and at that time when Jesus walked up there, to the worship of Pan. There's a whole temple to Pan there in Caesarea Philippi, and Jesus takes his disciples and they walk up the hill and they go up to this place, and I think Jesus was very purposeful about going to this place. This is the most northern point in Jesus' journey in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus goes there with purpose, and then from there starts making his way back to Jerusalem for his last days. Now, it would have been really interesting to watch Jesus walk up to Caesarea Philippi with these nice, good little Jewish boys in tow, right? These disciples, these young men who are learning from him. And it would have been like taking a group of young men through like the red light district, if you can kind of imagine that. So like they're all distracted by all sorts of things that they're seeing, maybe for the first time, maybe not. But they're seeing everything. And it's there that Jesus has this incredibly powerful conversation with them. Once he gets their attention, hey guys, focus over here. Don't look over there, focus here. Eyes on me, not on anything else. Jesus asks them this question: who do people say that I am? Like, what are you guys hearing out there? Like, you've read some stuff, you've seen some stuff on the internet, maybe you heard somebody on TikTok talking about who Jesus is. Like, who do people say that I am? Who do the people out there, those influencers, those different people, the people with the podcast, the people with the blog, who do people say that I am? The disciples are like, oh, well, some people say you're John the Baptist, some people say you're Elijah, maybe Jeremiah, or one of the other prophets, just a prophet come back in a different way. And Jesus is like, okay, but honestly, who do you say that I am? Which is the question that each and every one of us has to grapple with at some point in our lives. Who is Jesus in your life? And the answer to that question determines how you live every day from here to eternity. The answer to that question has incredible impact in what you do, the way you engage with other people, how you pray, how you live your life, what you do when you wake up in the morning, what you do with your income, how you engage with people, what you do with your spare time. It has impact on every piece of our lives. And it's the question that we as a church have to ask over and over and over again, because the answer matters. It has eternal significance. Peter pipes up and says, oh, you're the Messiah, the Son of God. You're the Christ. You, Jesus, are Lord. And Jesus says, Peter, that great answer. Good job. In fact, that was so good that I think you cheated, right? You had help. You had help from God, which is a good place to begin, because God is helping all of us to answer that question, even the people who aren't asking it yet. We talk about it as prevenient grace here in the Methodist Circle. We say that God is at work in everyone's lives. Sometimes they just need somebody to help them see it. Peter says, you, Jesus, are Lord. And that answer changes everything about his life from that day forward. And it should change everything about our lives if we profess that as well. And so Jesus says, Peter, great job. Simon, son of Jonah, he says, not Jonah with the whale, a different Jonah. So just in case you're working on the timeline there, different people. But Simon, son of Jonah, a great answer. And from now on, I want to call you Petros. I'm going to give you a nickname, Peter. But he uses the word Petros, which in Greek means little rock or pebble, right? When we think about Peter, we think about like this big manly guy, and Jesus is like, yeah, your name's Pebble. A little bit of humility in that. I think it's important. It's important for us to have nicknames that kind of keep us in check from time to time. Your name is Pebble. And then Jesus says something really important that's been debated for centuries, what Jesus actually meant when he said this. He said, your name is Peter, Petros, little pebble, and on this rock I'm going to build my church. Now, the word that he uses when he says rock this second time is the word Petra, which literally means like outcropping or a large rock. I mean, this big rock. So I do think that Jesus is interacting with this word play here, that Petros makes this statement, which I believe is the Petra, and it's on this rock that Jesus is going to build his church. Not necessarily Peter himself, but the statement that Peter makes. The foundation of our church is a statement. The rock on which we stand is our profession that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is Messiah. Now, if you come from a tradition that believes differently about this passage, that's okay. Jesus still utilizes Peter in a unique way as kind of the example of all the disciples. Jesus invites us, the church, to be a part of what he's doing in the world. Jesus says, I'm going to build my church on this rock. but I'm going to invite you along to be a part of it. That each and every one of us has a role to play, that each and every one of us is invited to be a part of proclaiming the good news that Jesus is Lord. That Peter and everyone since Peter who proclaims this is invited to invite others. As a church, this is what we exist on. This is what Jesus was building and is building. The ecclesia. It's the word that Jesus uses. It doesn't necessarily mean church, like a building. When we think about church, we often think about a building. Ecclesia literally means the assembly or gathering. It's this movement of people gathered together to proclaim that good news that Jesus is Lord, to help people answer that question, who do you say Jesus is? But Jesus doesn't stop there, which I think is so interesting. The sentence keeps going. Upon this rock, I'm going to build my church, and you guys all get to be a part of it. And I think Jesus points at something, because he's there in Caesarea Philippi, outside of this cave that was known as the gates of Hades, where they worshiped Pan, and they worshiped Baal, and they worshiped the Caesar, where they worshiped all of these false gods. The gates of Hades. And Jesus points to this cave, I believe. It looks like this. You can still see it today. He points to this cave and says, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against this profession, against this statement, against the work of the church. Jesus makes a radical statement about the people that the church is called to engage with. Again, these nice little Jewish boys are seeing all of these people worship Pan and all sorts of false deities, and Jesus goes, hey, those folks over there, they're going to be a part of this. Because he says the gates of Hades. Gates are used to keep people in and to keep people out. And oftentimes we think the church should take a defensive position, but Jesus doesn't invite us into a defensive position. He invites us to move forward towards people who need to hear that profession, that confession that Jesus is Lord. That all of those things that keep you bound up behind the gates, all of those things that we give our lives to that seem like they're going to offer us so much, don't offer us the fullness of life that Jesus being Lord does. These gates, they won't stand against the good news. It's almost as if Jesus builds a bridge between the church and a community that needs to know good news. It's almost as if Jesus is inviting us to connect the church to the community and the community to the church, to this foundational statement of faith, and to these people who need to know good news, who need to hear good news, who are bound up behind gates that the world puts in their way. He wants us to connect these two things and begin to build a bridge. And gosh, when you get up on top of that bridge, what you can see in terms of God's work in the world, the possibilities and the potential of a people who are willing to say Jesus is Lord, and they need to know it, and everyone needs to know it because it changes lives. And so when we say, build your church, it's a prayer to Jesus and an invitation to each of us, because we all have a role to play in that work. Each and every one of us has a role to play.